Hello and welcome to the Embrace Your Destiny podcast. My name is Sandra Dawes and I'm your host. And if you're unfamiliar with the podcast, if this is the first time that you're tuning in, the Embrace Your Destiny podcast is all about sharing the stories of women who have gone through a transformational experience in their life. And it might have seemed like the worst thing in the world when it was happening, but when reflecting on it, it happened for a reason and it helped them to become stronger in mind, body, and soul. It sort of put them on a course correction so that they could really live the life that they were meant to live. And today we're talking with Alys Sink. And Alys, back in 2017, August 12th to be exact, Alys's mother woke up fully paralyzed by an undiagnosed illness. And having just completed her master's program, Alys soon found herself returning to her childhood home to take care of her newly disabled mother. A survivor of domestic violence in her childhood, caring for her mother in their family home forced Alys to face the trauma of her past and the reality of her present. 6 months later, scared but radically determined, Alys started her small business and committed herself to a future of self-forgiveness, curiosity, and healing. Alys is now the founder of Real Talk, LLC, an international English tutoring agency committed to creating better language partners and partnerships. And we'll show you where you can find Alys in the show notes so that you can connect with her in the future. So welcome, Alys, and thanks so much for being a guest on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
So Alys, why don't you tell us a little bit more about your journey and how it led to the path that you're on today?
Sure. So, wow, hearing you say all of that makes it sound a lot better. I will say this has been the most recent experience that I've had. So all of this happened just a little over a year ago with my mother specifically. So just a quick overview that I completed my master's in 2017. And that happened in May, and my mother got sick in August. And this is just something that I guess felt like a huge transformative moment in my life because I felt that I was finally getting my feet under me, that I was growing professionally. And I had done a lot of wandering around in my early 20s trying to really survive and scrabble and support myself financially. And so this felt like a huge, a huge blow. That doesn't sound exactly right. I think there are definitely a lot of people who go through worse things, but it was just something unexpected, and it completely changed the course that I saw myself going on when I had to become a caregiver to my mother in my 20s. So I went home, and it was a really strange juxtaposition because I had gone from being at a conference with a lot of people who were my peers and my colleagues and talking about these large ideas and thinking about where my career was headed to sleeping on my childhood bedroom floor with, stink bugs crawling into my hair and waking up every 2 to 3 hours to help my mother go to the restroom. So it was just a really shocking, transformative moment where I had to think about where I was and where I actually wanted to be. So.
Yeah, and I think that it's not something that we're ever prepared for, right? To become caregivers for our parents, because I mean, if we're thinking about it logically, we know that they're not going to live forever, and there might come a time where we need to step in and take care of them. But I don't think most of us are actually mentally and emotionally prepared for that time.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I definitely was not. And my mother, make no mistake, I love my mother, and I, do not see her as a burden in any way. And I never want to communicate that. And that was definitely one of the huge transformations that happened, was having really honest conversations with my mother that I don't think would have been facilitated, at least not this early, I guess, after the events about, what happened in my childhood and, what her experience of it was. And just this kind of event really opened up pathways to healing that I think were very much closed at the time. And, the unexpectedness of it for both of us was the shared experience, because I certainly didn't expect to come and live in my childhood home and to go through this experience with her. And she definitely did not expect to have that experience. And, I definitely much harder on her than me, just physically speaking, especially emotionally, mentally, and physically. But I think when it's happening, it's very much hard to see the positive and good in it. So I don't want to be Pollyanna about it. If that makes sense.
Right. We're not looking at it through total rose-colored glasses. Right. But at the same time, it was is an amazing opportunity for healing, right? Because of the illness and because you're her caregiver right now, you have that time where there's no distractions to have those honest conversations, which I'm sure wasn't or isn't easy, but definitely necessary, right?
Absolutely. I think that as we're growing up, we don't, our relationship with our parents is very different. And the relationship that I have and had with my mother was always in a caregiving role, because my father was abusive towards both of us. So I think it was easy for me to step into this caregiver role as an adult, but there was also another element to it where we had to address that pain, and I had to grow as a person so that we could have those kinds of conversations, because otherwise it was going to break both of us. It was going to break our relationship. And so I think this type of situation forced both of us to become better people and to recognize the hurts that we had experienced in the past. And it's definitely ongoing. This is a very recent event, so I'm definitely learning a lot every day. But being her caregiver actually made me a better person, I feel like, made our relationship stronger, helped really, like at 3 a.m, we're having these conversations that I couldn't imagine even broaching a year ago. So it was definitely a transformative experience, and is an ongoing experience. So.
And what kinds of tools, if any, have you used to help you cope? Because you're running a business as well as taking care of your mom. So I can't imagine, how it must feel, because those are two very big balls to be juggling.
Yeah. So I was very lucky to actually, the day before I traveled down to my hometown, which I can't stress how small it is. It is very small. I had to take a bus to another bus to a car to be able to get to my hometown. And luckily, before I went on that trip, I was at a conference, and there was a keynote who was talking professionally about building your support network, building a powerhouse 3. And at the time, I knew that I wanted to grow my little business, but I didn't know how to do it. And then I was facing the possibility of not even having access to internet, much less time to do what I needed to do. And I felt that really I needed to build a network to support me. So thankfully, this keynote gave me the idea to build a support network. And that seems very basic on its face, but it was something that I actually hadn't thought about doing, building a network of friends with intention to help me get through this experience. So I will say that with intention, I took 3 people that I really trusted, that I knew that I could be honest with and safe with, and asked them specifically to be my support network throughout this process. And then I took a lot of time in between, you know, in between moments of caregiving, but moments of silence to think about what I wanted to do. Like, here are the things that I am struggling with, and here are the things I feel hopeful about, and where do I want to be. And so I took this moment of intense darkness and tried to make it into clarity. So that was the first thing that I tried, that I just worked towards. If that makes any sense.
It does. And I think that it's something that a lot of us disregard or take for granted, the importance of having a strong support system. I know that for myself, because I grew up an only child, I feel like I was so used to being independent that the whole idea of leaning on others or asking for help was something that I was not comfortable with for a really long time. And it took going through losing my dad and, all the stuff that happened afterwards to realize that you can't, navigate through the biggest things in life by yourself, that you do need a support system, even if it's somebody to pass you the tissue when you're bawling your eyes out. But, to have somebody who is going to be there and support you and empathize with you and, allow you to have those crazy moments and feel safe and to be there to encourage you when you feel like giving up. Like those people, that support system is priceless when you find that right group of people in your life, for sure.
Absolutely. And doing it with intention. I think that's something that was an element that I was definitely missing, where I had created friendships and kept relationships because I felt either that I was obligated to, or that it was easy to do so. Certain relationships were just easier to keep rather than structure and maintain in a healthy way. So specifically thinking about like the relationship with my father that I was still trying to maintain up to that point. And it was definitely just not having the energy, the emotional energy to maintain toxic relationships, and realizing that the people you surround yourself with shape how you feel as a person and shape your experience in the world. And so definitely this experience forced me emotionally to look at my relationships with people and prioritize them, and to say, okay, this person is a positive force in my life, and I want to cultivate that relationship, and I want to ask them for help, because asking is really vulnerable and hard to do, for me at least. So I think especially if you're independent, I can imagine as an only child, you have a lot of independence. It can be hard to remember that you're not alone and that you can ask for help in very difficult moments.
Totally. And I think that for me, the challenge was, as you talk about your dad, is that sometimes it is family members that you do need to keep your distance from, cut off completely, whatever. And it's that discomfort that comes with making those types of decisions, because you know that there are going to be people who judge you for that, like that's your father, or that's your mom, or that's your brother, fill in the blank. And how could you not want to have that person in your life? And I think that it's a hard thing to do, but it's often a necessary thing to do. And it's just about, as you say, having intention behind it and being okay with the decision and not allowing, the opinions of others to make you feel guilty or bad about the decisions you've made.
Yeah, and sometimes that person is yourself, right? Like I know, at least for me, it was like, well, this is my father, and Even if he wasn't particularly kind all of the time, that doesn't mean that he wasn't kind some of the time. And so there was definitely a conversation that I had to have with myself and my therapist where it was like, yeah, it's actually okay not to have this person in your life. It's okay to say, no, thank you. I don't want to maintain this relationship anymore because it isn't positive for me or for the people around me. And it sounds easy to say, but like you said, it's incredibly difficult to implement. Um, and so I'm still definitely learning through that process. I don't want to come off as sounding like I've cracked the problem.
Right. That the issue is over with. I've solved it. We're good. We're moving on to the next thing.
Done, all good, solid. Right. Yep. It's definitely everyday process. For example, my birthday was in July, and this was the first year that my father didn't contact me for my birthday in some way, shape, or form, either through a mystery box or an email or a phone call. So I was surprised by how much that impacted me, I guess. Even though we don't have a very deep connection, that still affected me in a way that I didn't anticipate. And so being able to turn to my support network and share that experience, and remember that I don't have to shoulder that experience alone, that was also new and very eye opening, be the right word.
Yeah. And you know what? I appreciate you saying that it isn't a done deal, that you haven't solved the issue, that it is a work in progress, because I think that that's so important to remember that, these things that we're going through, it's a journey and it's not like there's a final destination. And I think I said this in another interview that I remember being told by a business coach once that, you get to, you make progress, you feel like you're moving on and getting to the next level. But she said, new level, different devil. So it's not like you're ever done with things, right? So you'll get through something and you'll feel like you've got a good handle on it. And then something will happen that reminds you that the work isn't done yet. And I feel like I actually find it humorous now when that happens to me, that it's like, oh yeah, I got too cocky and I really thought that I was done with this, but clearly I have more to do. And I feel like a lot of the issues that we have, especially because a lot of them started when we were kids, it's like an onion, right? So you're peeling away these layers and you think that you're finally at the end, but there's another layer.
Never ending onion.
Yeah, exactly. It's a perpetual onion. And but yeah, I think that it's so important to remember that, yeah, it's not something that you can just be done with, and that there are going to be unexpected triggers like your birthday and not hearing from him where you think you're going to be okay with it. And when it happens, you're like, well, hang on a second. Why am I so bothered by this? And you realize that, yeah, there's still more work to be done.
So much more work to be done. Absolutely. So, and yeah, I guess I don't have any sage wisdom, but that advice that you just shared, like new level, different devil, definitely, I definitely can see that, respect that, because I don't know if you have experienced it in this way, but I feel like I go through really sudden growth spurts. So it's, I'm learning a lot very quickly. And definitely it feels like, once I've reached a moment of stasis, a moment where I can breathe, that's when the next surprise is literally around the corner. So
totally. Yeah, I would say that has been my experience as well. So, Alys, what would you say is the biggest lesson that you've learned so far?
The biggest lesson that I can definitely point to is that when things are feeling their most, like when you are feeling the most buried, when you feel like you're drowning, that is actually when you have the most clarity on your own life. Barring, of course, depression can definitely cloud your thinking and prevent you from being able to see things perfectly. But I think if you can take that moment when everything feels absolutely awful and look at what is happening with an objective eye, and then look at what you are experiencing and what you are hopeful for, and actually looking forward to, and seeing what that trend is, you can have some very honest conversations with yourself. You can kick off the bottom and get back to the surface, essentially. So using moments of drowning to seek clarity is my biggest lesson, and that's what pushed me to actually make the business happen, because prior to that I had played with the idea and I had said to myself, well, like, this will be so much work and I don't think I can do it. I don't have, I'm not a business major. I don't have the chops to do this. Like, it would be fun, sure, but I can't do this. And when this incident happened with my mother, when I realized how quickly things can change, I had that moment of clarity where I realized, if you want to do something, you need to do it today, because honestly, you may not have the opportunity tomorrow. So that sounds a little dark.
Oh, but it is the truth, though, isn't it? Like, it is the ultimate truth, is that nothing is guaranteed, and you never know when something's going to happen. So
Sure.
you might as well,
I
live
don't I
each
don't
day
want
to
to
the
be dark
fullest.
about it, but
Oh no, one of the things I've said in workshops, well, one of the things I suggest my clients do is write their eulogy. Talk
yeah,
about how you want
that's
to be
fun.
remembered. And, I mean, how many of us want to really think about our mortality? But when you think about, how you want to be remembered, what kind of legacy you want to leave behind, and then you take some time to think about how you're living your life today, then are you contributing to that legacy? And if not, what are you waiting for? Right? Because again, like you said, you never know what can happen or when it's going to happen. So you might as well get to work now. And so maybe I'm just as dark as you are, Alys.
I mean, yeah, I don't want to come off as being very depressive or dark, but you're right. It's just it being able to leverage that recognition of how short time can be and how unpredictable life can be. It helps give you the clarity to do things that otherwise are too scary to do, I think. And
Yeah.
I don't, again, addendum, haven't figured it out. Still terrified on a regular basis when doing the work, but also very excited, and also able to get up with an understanding that this is 100% what I want to be doing, and already seeing the benefit of that in my life, even if parts of it are really scary. Um, yeah, that's the truth.
Yeah, and I would think, I know from my own personal experience, I would say that when you do that stuff, when you're doing work that really lights your fire,
Mhm.
that it is the most fulfilling work that you've probably ever done. Because I know that that's how I feel about it.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And it also, this is another surprising element to me, was that it gave me the energy to do other things. So, doing something that I feel passionate about, that I am excited by, gives me the energy to take on other projects, to do other things that I am also passionate and excited about. It makes me a better partner to my boyfriend. It makes me a better friend. It makes me a better daughter. Um, it's forced me to go and seek help. Through both emotional therapy, mental therapy, and be more physically active because I need the energy to do the thing that I'm excited about. And that's this beautiful cycle where I'm excited about what I'm doing during the day, and that leads me to uh, give have more energy to do the other things, which also gives me more energy, if that makes sense.
It does, and I think that it's that ripple effect, right?
Ripple.
And that's why when I talk to clients or when I give talks, I talk about the importance of taking care of yourself and making sure your needs are being met. Because
Mm.
I think that especially as women, we forget and we
Oh,
take care of
yes.
everybody else and we forget about our own needs. But just as you said, when you're taking care of yourself and you're making sure that you're happy, that you're fulfilled, then
Hmm.
you are a better daughter, you are a better partner because your cup is full, and so you're able to give without feeling drained.
Right.
And I think that that's something that a lot of us struggle with, like giving ourselves permission to take time out for
Hmm.
ourselves to do the things that we need to do to yeah, to
Yeah.
take care of ourselves. And
Oh,
but we
absolutely.
forget about that. And but when you make time for that, it's not a selfish thing to do because again, like you said, it's going to have that ripple effect. It's going to benefit everybody else in your life because when you're good, then you're good with everybody else and with whatever you have to deal with in life because you're in a better headspace, if that makes any
Yes.
sense.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think you're 100% right that um, being raised a certain way, especially if you are a woman, you are raised to forefront the needs of other people in front of yours. And I think that's especially true if you are a caregiver to someone in your family, or a caregiver in general, probably. That you are so busy trying to make sure that somebody else is comfortable, it's very easy to forget about your own needs. And so that was definitely another radical lesson through this experience was that in order to maintain my sanity and be a good caregiver, I need to still be pursuing the things that I'm excited about. So if that means I'm running a business up in my childhood bedroom on the floor, then I'm going to do that thing. And I'm going to do it as well as I can. And it's not going to be perfect, but it gives me the energy to keep going and do the things that need to happen and that I want to happen. Um, yeah. So that is definitely another radical lesson from this experience.
Elise, what advice would you give to somebody going through something similar in their own life? So somebody who has found themselves having to be a caregiver to a
Mm,
parent or another family member.
yeah. I mean, I can only share what has helped me, and of course, and I think I count myself as very lucky in that I was not the only person who ended up caregiving for my mother. But my advice would be to remember that this is temporary and that you get to dictate how much of yourself you pour into this experience, and that your experience, your life, your goals, your dreams, they still matter. And that you don't have to sacrifice the entirety of yourself into that experience, and that when things feel really overwhelming and really scary, that you can not you don't have to be alone. You can have somebody beside you, and if that person is your friend, if that person is your therapist, it is your your mother, father, uncle, just recognize that you don't have to do that thing alone. And this is true in all aspects of life, I imagine, but specifically in caregiving, uh, it's impossible to shoulder such an experience by yourself. And I definitely could not have done it. And was just very lucky that I happened to stumble into such an awesome group of people who helped me through that experience and are still helping me through. Uh, and so that's multi layered advice, I guess.
And good advice all the same. And I think that the whole thing about asking for help, I think the big thing to remember is that it's not a sign of weakness. It's actually, I think, a sign of strength to be able to admit to yourself that you cannot do it on your own.
Right. Yeah. And I think this is very common with people who are independent, people who are single children, or just have always had this feeling that they can take care of themselves and others. I sometimes forget that I can lean on other people. So, for example, like I had to interact with my father uh, during my brother's graduation this year. And I had this conversation with my therapist about how I'm going to handle this interaction and maintain healthy boundaries. And something my therapist had to routinely remind me of was that my partner was going to be there standing next to me and I could use him as a resource. So I repeatedly kept going to this experience like, I'm going to do this alone. I have to do this alone. Like, how am I going to do this alone? And my therapist had to keep reminding me, actually,
You're not alone.
you're not alone. There's literally someone standing right next to you. So I think it's reminding yourself that sometimes there is literally someone standing right next to you and you can lean on that person. And
Yeah, and all you have to do is
okay.
ask. You just
Right.
have to ask.
Right. Or establish some form of communication. Like if you notice that I am not calling you or texting you as regularly as I used to, I may need a little extra help or love.
Yeah,
So recognizing those patterns too. That takes a little bit more intention, but
and
you know, an
awareness.
awareness, but it's important to do because if you can build that support network, it makes your life and their life also much easier.
Right. No
So,
guessing. We know for sure
no
what's going.
guessing, no
Yeah.
mind reading.
Yeah. Because most of
Yeah.
us, our ESP is not on point. So we need some help with
No,
that stuff.
I haven't learned how to do that. I have no advice on that. So,
Elise, thank you so much for sharing your journey and the lessons. Any final words?
not really, besides just keep going and don't be afraid to reach out and talk to somebody, even if it feels very vulnerable and upsetting, because I completely understand that feeling. And usually it's just ourselves telling us that we're not worthy of having that support. And we may not say it in such a way, but we are worthy of having a support network of people around us who love us and of reaching towards our own desires and dreams. So that would be it.
Well, thank you so much for that. And again, thank you for your time and the wisdom that you've shared today. It was awesome. And for those of you listening, you can learn more about Alys and where to find her on social media and her website in the show notes. And yeah, so that's it for today. Thank you so much again for listening. And Alys, again, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Sandra.
And we will see you next week.